So this is Bridge CS4, and it does seem to be a little bit more robust than Bridge CS3. Bridge seems to crash, or at least the CS3 version seemed to crash a lot, although it didn't seem to hurt anything when it crashed. You just have to restart it, but it's still frustrating. The CS4 one seems to be a little bit better. Okay, so what I do is when I go out and shoot some pictures, I just make a folder. So this was like, I had to take my little sailboat from Porpoise Bay to Pender Harbor because I actually got a slip in Gibson, so I had to move my boat, which was like a 3-day trip. And so I just took pictures during that trip, so I just make a folder with, you know, whatever the thing was and then the date, and I just put all the raw files in the folder, okay? And then what I do is when I get home, I just go through those in Bridge. So, you know, you can set up Bridge, you can set up your windows however you want. So this is sort of how I set them up. By the way, that's what I see out my window. So Vancouver is right over here, North Vancouver is right over here. That's the Cypress ski area. So during the Olympics, the snowboarding events are going to be there. So that's not actually Porpoise Bay, but those pictures were on the card. Okay, so this is Porpoise Bay, and so when I come back from a shoot, I just set it up like this, and then I just go through. I use the down arrow to just go through the pictures. And then the ones that I like, I can type, you know, 1 or 2 stars. So usually I'll just go through them all, and the ones that I like let's say I decide I like this one, I'll just type a 1, which just puts a star there. Now this information, whatever you do in Bridge, gets stored in the XMP file. You know, so if you have a raw file that you shot, then like these little stars and the raw adjustments and everything, they get stored in the XMP file that goes along with your raw file. And you can actually go back and forth between Bridge and Lightroom, and they'll both just change the same XMP file. And the thing with Lightroom is it has a database, you know, so it's supposedly keeping all the stuff in the database. But I sort of like my XMP files edited because when I move my pictures from one hard drive to another, you know, once I've moved them, I can just move my edits by just copying the XMP files, which is really fast. So in Lightroom, there's a little preference item that tells it to update all the changes to the XMP files. And if you turn that on, which you have to, it's not by default on, then you can go back and forth between Lightroom and Bridge and see the same changes. So anyhow, I just go through the files, and then if I see something I like, you know, I just hit a 1 for a 1 star. And you know, so if I like that one, I can do a 1. Okay, so it's very quick to go through your edits. And in this case, I'm just editing the real images. Okay, so once I've gone through them all, these are the nicer ones. So this is called Skookumchuck Rapids, which is down here, and it's one of the fastest rapids in the world. The currents get up higher than 15 miles per hour at the, you know, at certain times. So if you're going to take your boat through there, you have to time it just right at slack tide when it's, you know, the tide's going, you know, stopping. Otherwise, your boat can tip over pretty easily. So anyhow, so once I've gone through and looked at all my pictures and marked them, then what I can do is just click on the little filter thing on the filter tab, and I can say, well, let me just see the ones with, you know, say 1 star and 2 stars, and then I can go back and make a second pass, you know. So here, I'll just show you these because they're nicer.
And we're just leaving your raw files in the Canon RAW instead of going to DNG.
Well, I have a G10, and I convert. Well, I got into converting those to DNG because I was using CS3 for a while, but I realized instead of upgrading to Photoshop CS4, I could just get the little DNG converter and convert them to DNG. So that's what I've been doing for those. But the other ones from my SLR, I just leave them in RAW because, again, then most of your edits are just in the little XMP file, and you can quickly copy those from one hard drive to another. Whereas if you move them to DNG, it seems like it updates the file, the whole file. So, and is there a way to, if you're in DNG, to just have that stuff be in an external file, like the XMP file? Does anybody know?
Well, I use DNG, and it's just all the XMP information is all embedded in the DNG. So if you're going to copy, you just copy a DNG.
Yeah, so then you have to copy the whole file, which takes longer than.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So. Okay. So anyhow. With what?
Are you concerning yourself with keywording at this point, or you're just making this up?
Well, you can do keywording too. I usually use the file info thing. So you know, you can, like, I put my my copyright notice and my phone number and all that kind of stuff. And you can set up presets in here. Actually, I don't have this one totally set up because I only recently converted to CS4, but my CS3 one, I just had all these different presets. So that you can have your keywords all loaded in there. So you can do pretty much all the same stuff in Bridge with keywords and everything. I mean, you can make keyword sets and you can assign those to the images and everything. So. Okay, so anyhow, then when you, so usually if I wanted to edit these down to like my best 10 images, I would just go through them several passes and then just increase the number of stars. So like let's say say this is my third pass through, then I'd be, making some of these, 3-star images. So if you just type a 3. Then you can make them 3-star. Now that one's going away because then you have to go filter and say, well, show the 3-star ones too. And so then I can filter them out. I can say, well, I just want to see the 2 stars and the 3 stars, and then I'm only seeing a few images. Okay. So. Okay, so once you decide on an image to edit, and I think I decided I was going to edit a different image tonight, so I'm actually going to edit one of these. So then when you want to do your camera raw stuff, if you're using Bridge, you just double click on the image that you want to edit, and that brings up the raw filter. And basically you have pretty much all the same adjustments that you have in Lightroom, except Lightroom has these little mask things, so you can do sort of a limited editing, which you can't do in Bridge. But if you're going to bring the image into Photoshop anyhow, then you don't really need to do that. Okay, so what I usually do with the raw filter, and it'd be the same thing whether you're using Lightroom or Bridge, is adjust. So this is just the settings as the camera had them. So anyhow, see how there's a pattern in here. So if you're trying to find your black point, you want to sort of figure out what the pattern is, and then pick a spot that matches that pattern, okay, if there is a pattern. Sometimes in the shadows there isn't a pattern, and then it doesn't work, okay? But here, there is this sort of pattern. So I'm just going to pick this spot here. It seems pretty dark. Okay, so there's my color sampler, and then I'm done with that, okay? So now I can go into my levels adjustment. Okay, and this, I haven't done anything with this levels adjustment. It's just a blank levels adjustment, okay? So this is the new